The Knicks just unlocked a monster. Landry Shamet dropped 36 points in 37 minutes. And it wasn't just volume, it was precision. He shot 12 for 19 from the field. That's over 63%. And it wasn't padded with garbage time floaters either. 6 of those 12 field goals were from beyond the arc. That's half. He took 12 three-pointers total and hit exactly half of them. 50% from deep on 12 attempts? That's elite accuracy on high volume, not some one-off fluke from the corner. The rest of his scoring came from the line. 6 of 6 on free throws. Perfect. Not one miss from the stripe. And when you run the math, it all adds up to a points per shot rate of nearly 1.9 per attempt. That's insane. For guards especially, anything near that number is nuclear grade efficiency. Now stack that up. 12 total field goals. 6 twos, 6 threes. Add in the 6 free throws, and you've got 24 scoring actions that led to 36 points. That's 1.5 points for every scoring action. There's no fat in there, no wasted movement. Every scoring moment counted. And the shot balance, he hit 6 twos and 6 threes on 7 2-point attempts and 12 3-point attempts. That means he shot 85% inside the arc. 85. There's efficient, and then there's this. Let's go deeper. His field goal percentage for the night landed at 63.1. From 3, he clocked in at 50%. From the line, 100%. Across the board, that's elite. Not one category lagged. There wasn't a single efficiency dip in his game. He didn't just shoot, he passed. 3 assists. And more importantly, only 1 turnover. That's a 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, while being one of the highest usage players on the floor. That's control. He handled the ball, made plays, and didn't cough it up. And for someone carrying that kind of scoring load, 37 minutes is no joke. That's not a heat check off the bench, that's starter minutes. He was out there as long as the key started, and he made those minutes count. Almost a full point per minute of play. That's 0.97 points. Every 60 seconds he was on the floor. There's almost no drop off in output. He didn't slow down. The shot attempts per minute, 1 every 1.94 minutes. That's consistent pressure. That's being involved constantly. By the way, if you guys enjoy these deep dives, I'll be posting every day. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks. Anyways, his rebounds, 2 total. 1 on offense, 1 on defense. It's a small number, but the balance matters. He contributed on both ends. Didn't just float around waiting for open looks. Offensive rebounds mean extra possessions. Defensive rebounds mean closing possessions. He did both. Then there's the foul count. Just 3 fouls across 37 minutes. That's playing aggressive enough to stay in the mix, but smart enough to avoid foul trouble. He didn't take himself off the floor by being reckless. And look at the plus minus. Plus 11. That's the kind of number that says everything he did made the team better. That's not just points in a vacuum. That's points that shifted the game. The Knicks outscored their opponent by 11 when he was on the floor. That's actual, measurable impact. When you zoom out and look at the team totals, the Knicks put up 140 points. Shamet's 36 made up more than a quarter of that, exactly 25.7%. That's one player producing more than a fourth of all offense on the scoreboard. And in the three-point department, the Knicks knocked down 21 threes as a team. Shamet had 6 of those. That's 28.5% of all the threes from one guy. That kind of contribution puts him at the center of the entire shooting performance. You want the per make scoring value? Take the 36 total points, subtract the 6 free throws, and divide that by 12. Made field goal. That's 2.5 points per shot. That means the average made field goal was worth more than a standard 2-pointer. That happens when you mix in a high dose of threes and do it at 50%. Now break his scoring into categories. 18 points came from deep. 12 came from inside the arc. The last 6 came from the line. That's exactly half of his total from long range, 1/3 from inside, and 1/6 from the stripe. You don't see that kind of distribution every game. It's a clean, scoring split, and it shows how complete his profile was. He wasn't relying on one method to put up numbers. And then there's the usage. 19 shot attempts in 37 minutes. That's a shot every 1.94 minutes. He stayed active the whole game, didn't disappear for long stretches, kept attacking, kept producing. So yeah, this wasn't just a nice little surprise. It was efficient, it was controlled, and it directly impacted the scoreboard. Shamet wasn't padding stats, he was producing results. Every number backs it up. But I want to talk about Shamet so far this season. Let's start with his scoring. Landry Shamet has quietly become one of the most efficient scorers on the Knicks this season. And it's not even close when you dig into the numbers. He's averaging 10 points per game, which already puts him ahead of more than 62% of players. But the volume is only half the story. It's the efficiency that makes him stand out, especially when you stack him next to the rest of this roster. Start with his effective field goal percentage. At 65.1%, Shamet is clearing nearly the entire league. That number is better than 86% of players. It's not even in the same neighborhood as Brunson, who's at 53.5%, or Towns, who's barely over 50. Shamet's shooting splits are like a cheat code. He averages 6.3 shot attempts per game, but his 1.3 points per field goal means he's getting the absolute most out of every touch. Look at true shooting percentage, a better overall measure of scoring efficiency because it accounts for field goals, threes, and free throws. Shamet is rocking a 69.8% true shooting percentage. That's absurd. That puts him above 86% of players, and nobody else in the Knicks core rotation is even sniffing that territory. Brunson, who's the main scorer, is down at 59.2%. Towns is right behind at 58.3%. Even OG, who's having a solid offensive season, checks in at 60.1%. Shamet just leapfrogs them all with pure scoring efficiency, and he's doing it while playing alongside them, which makes it even more important. Shamet is scoring 10 points a night without needing to dominate the ball. He's getting his buckets in rhythm, and he's getting them without disrupting the flow. When he's on the floor with Brunson, who puts up 28 points per game, the floor spacing changes. Brunson's usage is sky high, over 20 field goal attempts a night, but even with that volume, his points per field goal sit at just 1.1. That's because he's taking a heavy mix of twos and drawing a lot of fouls. Shamet, on the other hand, scores 1.4 points per scoring attempt, higher than anyone else on the team. Towns is putting up nearly 22 a night on 15.8 attempts, with 6.6 free throw attempts tacked on. That gives him 1.2 points per scoring attempt. It's good, but still noticeably under Shamet. The difference is that Shamet's doing it on fewer possessions and less volume. That kind of efficiency is rare. It's surgical. He's not carrying the offense, but he's making every opportunity count. When Towns is on the floor, the paint gets crowded. That opens up Shamet beyond the arc. And when defenders overplay the perimeter, he's been capitalizing with those timely 2-point shots, hitting 1.02 point field goals per game and getting to the line for over 2 free throws per game. And he's converting those trips with no waste. With OG in the mix, the defensive pressure often shifts away from Shamet. OG is averaging 15.8 per game, with a strong mix of inside and outside shooting. He puts up just over 12 shots per game and hits at a true shooting rate of 60.1%. Again, solid, but still not touching Shamet's level. OG's points per field goal sit at 1.2, which means he's still scoring efficiently, but the gap between 1.2 and 1.3 becomes meaningful when you stretch it over the course of a season, and Shamet is making it look routine. Put Bridges into the equation, and you've got another wing producing 15.6 per game on 12 attempts. Bridges has a true shooting percentage of 61.5 and an effective field goal percentage of 59. Both are well above average, and yet Shamet is still sitting in his own tier. He's taking only half as many shots as Bridges and producing nearly 70% of the scoring. That kind of production per possession makes Shamet the ideal complementary scorer. He doesn't need the ball to impact the scoreboard, and he doesn't take away from the rhythm of the higher volume guys like Brunson and Towns. Josh Hart plays a totally different role, more of a utility guy who fills gaps. But even there, Shamet holds the advantage in scoring efficiency. Hart's putting up 8.7 per game on 7.3 shots, with a true shooting percentage of 56.5. That's not terrible, but it's a full 13 points lower than Shamet. That kind of gap isn't just a blip, it's the difference between a good possession and a wasted one. Hart contributes across the board, no doubt, but Shamet is converting scoring chances into points at a far more effective clip. And here's the wild part. Shamet is outpacing 83% of players in total points per game, even while being a secondary option in most rotations. He's not the focal point of the offense, and yet he's racking up 10 points a night with minimal usage. That level of production means that when Brunson is handling the offense, when Towns is drawing double teams, and when OG or Bridges are working off-ball screens, Shamet is quietly slipping into the gaps and delivering efficient, timely buckets. What sets Shamet apart isn't just the shooting accuracy, it's how little he wastes. His field goal attempts sit at 6.3, but his scoring output ranks him above players who shoot nearly double. That's because his points per scoring attempt sit at 1.4. Nobody else on the Knicks is touching that. Brunson is at 1.2. Towns is at 1.2. OG and Bridges, 1.2. Josh Hart is down at 1.1. Shamet is just on another level when it comes to squeezing points out of possession. And this fits perfectly into how the Knicks have been structuring their offense this season. When Brunson is on, he's drawing defenders like a magnet. That opens up the wings. OG benefits from this spacing, but Shamet feasts on it. The defensive pressure is rarely aimed his way, and that allows him to take high-quality shots and bury them at a rate that punishes teams for ignoring him. When Shamet shares the floor with Towns, you get another dynamic. Towns pulls big defenders away from the paint, which gives Shamet cleaner looks on drives and from mid-range. And when it's Hart initiating offense from the top or in transition, Shamet becomes the trailer or the corner sniper. Every part of the Knicks rotation seems to sync with his game. But here's the most impressive thing. Even as he takes a backseat to the bigger names, Shamet remains one of the most impactful scorers on a per-touch basis. His contribution isn't in the volume, it's in the margin. When he shoots, it goes in. When he gets fouled, he converts. And when he plays alongside higher usage guys, his value multiplies because he doesn't need to be fed like a traditional scorer. He's just always ready to deliver. All of this makes him the kind of player that tilts games without drawing attention. The numbers do the talking. He's more efficient than Brunson, more precise than Towns, and more deadly in limited touches than anyone else on the roster. He's putting up numbers that beat out 86% of the league in shooting efficiency. And he's doing it while fitting seamlessly into lineups built around other stars. The Knicks have plenty of weapons, but none of them are producing points as cleanly as Landry Shamet. 10 points per game, 65% effective field goal shooting, nearly 70% true shooting, 1.4 points per attempt. It all adds up to a guy who's not just helping the offense. He's redefining what efficient role scoring looks like. Landry Shamet has spent most of his career being labeled as an offensive specialist, but this season, his defense has been telling a very different story. Quietly, he's become a valuable piece on the Knicks' defensive end. Not by flying all over the court, swatting shots, and picking pockets like a maniac, but by playing smart, composed, system-based defense. And when you look at the numbers in context, especially compared to some of his teammates, you start to see that Shamet's contributions on defense are both underrated and more effective than people realize. Let's start with the mixed team defense metric, a stat that blends individual and team impact on defense. Shamet ranks above 25% of players in this category. That might not sound like an eye popper until you realize how that number fits into the Knicks' defensive structure. The Knicks aren't built around gambling defenders or highlight stuffed chaos machines. They rely on system defenders who stay in position, don't overcommit, and can play within a team framework. That's where Shamet thrives. His steal average is sitting at 0.4 per game, and he adds 0.1 blocks. Those numbers might not dominate the box score, but they reflect a player who doesn't reach, doesn't overextend, and doesn't fall for every fake thrown his way. He's not out there hunting stats, he's staying disciplined. And while the highlight-hungry crowd might not appreciate that kind of defense, coaches definitely do. The goal is to get stops, not stats. Shamet does that by playing positionally sound, mistake-free basketball. One of the clearest signs of his effectiveness is team defensive efficiency when he's on the floor. 116.9. That's better than several players on the roster with far flashier defensive reputation. Josh Hart, for example, averages 0.8 steals and 5.1 defensive rebounds, and yet when he's on the floor, the team defensive efficiency actually drops to 122.2. That means opponents score more effectively when Hart is out there than when Shamet is, and Hart is no slouch. He's known for hustle, grit, and making tough plays, but the numbers show Shamet is part of more effective defensive units. Take it a step further with Mitchell Robinson. He's the team's shot-blocking presence. He averages 1.2 blocks a game and is supposed to be the anchor inside. But his team defensive efficiency is 117.1, still higher than Shamet. Robinson ranks in the 57th percentile in mixed team defense. That's good, but again, it's nearly identical to the impact Shamet is having. And Shamet isn't 7 feet tall with a wingspan that reaches into the upper deck. He's a guard doing this through positioning, awareness, and staying engaged. Let's talk about defensive rebound. Shamet averages 1.5 defensive boards a game, which is modest, but it matches the expectations for his position and role. He's not being asked to crash the glass like a forward. His job is to contest shots on the perimeter and get back in transition, not fighting under the rim for boards against bigs. Still, when you compare him to someone like Miles McBride, the difference is marginal. McBride averages 1.6 defensive rebounds and 0.9 steals. But the team's defensive efficiency when McBride is on the floor is 119. Shamet's impact is better, and he's doing it with less fanfare. Even when stacked against a top-tier defender like Bridges, Shamet holds his own better than you'd expect. Bridges ranks at 76% in mixed team defense, with 2 steals and nearly a block per game. He's a legitimate pest defensively, but his team defensive efficiency is 116.1, only slightly better than Shamet's 116.9. That means Shamet is playing in lineups that are almost just as good at stopping opponents, and he's doing it without the same statistical output. That speaks to how well Shamet understands spacing, switching, and his assignments on the floor. Now let's be clear. OG is the defensive king on this roster. He ranks above 95% of players in mixed team defense with 1.9 steals and 0.7 blocks per game. His team defensive efficiency is 109.3. That's elite. He's the guy who takes on the other team's best score and makes their life miserable. But what's important is how Shamet works next to him. When those two share the floor, Shamet doesn't get exposed. He doesn't force OG to cover 2 guys. He doesn't get lost in screens or get blown by. He holds his space and lets OG play his disruptive style while providing a solid, steady presence on the other wing. That's part of what makes Shamet valuable. He plays defense that allows other defenders to shine. He's the guy who rotates when he's supposed to, helps when help is needed, and closes out without fouling. He doesn't make the defense chase after him to cover his mistakes. And that kind of no-glory defense makes the rest of the lineup stronger. It's not just about who gets the steal or the block, it's about who prevented the shot from happening in the first place. Team defensive success is built on trust and communication. Shamet's discipline helps maintain that structure. When he's on the floor, the Knicks aren't scrambling. They're not recovering from overhelp or cleaning up after blown coverages. They're in position. And even though he's not the kind of player who will rack up 2 steals and a block in a flash, he's the guy who forces a tough shot, boxes out his man, and gets the stop. Those plays matter just as much as the flashy ones. Look at the big picture. Shamet's ranking in mixed team defense might be 25% overall, but when he's part of lineups with Bridges, OG, or Robinson, that number doesn't translate to worse defense. It translates to steady, system-oriented production. It shows that when he plays with the team's top defenders, he elevates with them rather than holding them back. That's exactly what you want from your rotation players. Another big advantage Shamet brings is that he rarely fouls. His foul discipline keeps him on the floor and prevents free point. A lot of defenders rack up gaudy numbers by taking risks, but they also give up a lot at the line. Shamet's not that kind of player. He stays vertical, he stays alert, and he doesn't give referees excuses to blow the whistle. That kind of control shows he's reading the game instead of chasing highlights. It also matters that Shamet's defensive efficiency has held up across multiple rotations. Whether he's out there with Brunson and Hart in smaller lineups, or paired with OG and Towns in more size-focused sets, his presence doesn't lead to defensive drop-offs. That flexibility makes him a useful tool for coaches who want to adapt matchups without sacrificing the defense's backbone. He doesn't need a specific lineup to be effective. He just plays solid, consistent defense, no matter who's around him. And when the Knicks switch on defense, which they do frequently, Shamet has shown he can hold up. He's not a liability in isolation. He doesn't panic when he gets switched onto bigger players. He uses leverage, timing, and footwork to contest without fouling. You won't see him get blown by and look around for help. He squares up, slides, and forces opponents to beat him with tough shots. There's also an underrated part of Shamet's defensive value that shows up in the way he defends without the ball. His off-ball positioning is consistently sharp. He doesn't drift or ball watch. He tags cutters, rotates into the right help spots, and closes out under control. When you factor in that Shamet's defense doesn't require high usage or on-ball dominance, it becomes clear he's the kind of defender who complements star players perfectly. He doesn't need touches. He doesn't need defensive schemes built around him. He just fits. He enhances the players around him by staying sharp, staying smart, and playing team basketball. And remember, this is all coming from a player who was mostly labeled a shooter when he came into the league. That label doesn't do justice to how well-rounded his game has become. He's not a specialist anymore. He's a full-fledged rotation guy who defends his position, contributes to team stops, and fits cleanly into every lineup the Knicks want to throw out. So while Shamet might not be topping the league in blocks or steals, his defense holds up, and in many cases, exceeds expectations. He's part of lineups that get stops. He holds his own against tougher matchups. He plays mistake-free basketball, and his presence on the court makes the team better, not worse. That's the definition of a strong defender. It's not always about the flash. Sometimes it's about the foundation. But then let's talk about usage. Landry Shamet's role on this Knicks team isn't designed to dominate headlines. He's not the primary option, not even the secondary one. But if you've been paying attention to the way usage actually works in the flow of modern NBA offenses, especially on a team that features volume machines like Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns, then you know a 15.2% usage rate for Shamet doesn't just reflect low volume. It reflects maximum precision under tight constraints. It means he's operating in a hyper-controlled environment where every possession he touches has to matter because he's not getting very many. So let's start with what that 15.2% usage rate actually tells us. Usage rate measures the percentage of a team's offensive possessions that end with a player either taking a shot, drawing a foul, assisting, or turning the ball over. For Shamet, it's 6.3 field goal attempts, 2.1 free throw attempts, 0.9 assists, and half a turnover per game across 43.2 possessions played. That puts him above 34% of players in the league. Not high, but far from negligible. And when you stack that usage against what he's producing with it, the results are quietly impressive. Let's compare him directly to a player like Miles McBride. McBride's usage is slightly higher at 15.7%. Putting him above 38% of players. He takes more shots at 7.6 field goal attempts per game and averages 2.7 assists, which is a nice bump from Shamet's 0.9. But McBride also gets to the free throw line less, with just 0.9 attempts, and his turnover count is higher at 0.8. Across the full 47.7 possessions he plays per game, his higher usage yields more visible ball handling responsibility, but not necessarily more efficiency. What makes Shamet interesting is that he's not being asked to create offense in volume, yet he's contributing efficiently without disrupting the offensive flow. His numbers reflect a player who thrives in secondary or tertiary actions, catch and shoot threes, relocation plays, and quick dribble pull-ups. He doesn't need to dribble the air out of the ball to make an impact. That makes him perfect for a system that runs through high-usage stars like Brunson and Town. Now let's talk about usage extremes. At the top of the Knicks hierarchy, Jalen Brunson leads the team with a usage rate of 31.7%, higher than 96% of players in the league. He's taking 20.8 field goal attempts, 6.6 free throws, dishing 6.6 assists, and turning it over 2.7 times across 71.4 possessions played. That's superstar level load management. Brunson is the engine, the steering wheel, and occasionally the brake pedal. And that's exactly why Shamet's role is so valuable. With Brunson occupying that much of the offense, there's not a lot of oxygen left for anyone else. Yet Shamet still finds ways to contribute without stepping on toes or clogging up the lanes. Karl Anthony Towns isn't far behind, with a usage rate of 26.4%, more than 88% of players. He's putting up 15.8 field goal attempts, 6.6 free throws, 3.3 assists, and 2.5 turnovers in 70 possessions per game. He's clearly option 2, if not 1B on some nights. Towns' high usage means the ball will find him frequently in the post, at the top of the key, or trailing in transition. For a role player like Shamet, that creates a narrow window of opportunity and a higher demand for efficiency in each of those windows. Now contrast that with Shamet again. With far fewer possessions ending in his hands, he's producing at a highly efficient clip, especially in terms of scoring. He's putting up 10 points per game, converting at a true shooting percentage nearing 70, and taking care of the ball with just half a turnover per game. That low turnover rate is crucial when you consider that any mistake he makes has to be absorbed by high usage players around him who already carry the bulk of the offensive weight. Bridges has a usage rate of 16.2%, putting him above 42% of players. He's clearly more involved than Shamet, with 12 field goal attempts and 1.7 free throws, but he also has almost 5 assists and nearly 1 turnover per game. He's being used as more of a hybrid playmaker, and he gets more touches to show his versatility. Shamet, meanwhile, gets fewer touches but delivers no less impact. He's just doing it in the margins, with cleaner possessions and minimal waste. Josh Hart, the ultimate utility player, sits at 15.7% usage, nearly identical to McBride. He's averaging 7.3 field goal attempts, 1.2 free throws, 4.3 assists, and 1.7 turnovers across 51 possessions. That turnover count is triple Shamet's, and the assist number, while higher, reflects Hart's role as more of a connective piece, someone who relays the offense rather than finishes it. Shamet, by contrast, is a finisher. His usage may be low, but it's sharp. He's not just a placeholder, he's an endpoint. His touches end in points, not confusion. Then there's OG, who carries a usage of 19.7%, putting him in the top 38%. He's clearly more involved in the offense with over 12 shot attempts, 2.1 free throws, 2.2 assists, and 1.8 turnovers. He's a dependable option and a capable creator when needed. But even OG, who is taking double the actions per game compared to Shamet, is producing at only slightly better efficiency in most advanced shooting metrics. That says a lot about how potent Shamet's limited touches have been. Mitchell Robinson, on the other hand, is on the extreme low end of usage. He clocks in at just 9.2%, above only 5% of players. He takes just over 3 field goal attempts per game and barely gets to the line. His assists are low, and his turnovers are nearly as high as Shamet's, despite taking half as many actions. He's a pure lob finisher and offensive rebounder, not someone being used in the half court outside of cleanup duties. Shamet's usage may be low compared to the team's offensive stars, but it's light years ahead of a player like Robinson in terms of diversity and impact. Even Gershon Yabusele, with the lowest usage of this group at 14%, contributes less volume in every category. He's taking just 2.8 shots per game, with less than 1 free throw, less than half an assist, and barely any turnovers. His role is almost invisible offensively. Shamet, by comparison, is not only touching the ball more, he's finishing plays and scoring in double digits while doing it. And here's what ties all of this together. Efficiency under low usage is one of the most underrated skills in basketball. The ability to play off ball, stay engaged, and strike when opportunities present themselves is not something every player can do. Most need rhythm, most need touches. Shamet has shown he can deliver without those luxuries. He knows when to cut, when to spot up, when to rotate the ball, and when to pull the trigger. He's not pounding the rock into the floor. He's not hijacking possession. His role is optimized around elite shot selection and mistake-free offense. The Knicks know exactly what they're getting when he's on the floor. A player who won't disrupt the primary creators, but who will absolutely punish defenders who forget about him. And that's where Shamet's usage profile becomes a weapon. Defenses are designed to focus on Brunson and Towns. Bridges draws attention with his cutting. OG's strength on the drive pulls help defenders. Amidst all of that motion, Shamet is waiting, slipping into open space, catching defenders off guard, and firing away with high-efficiency shots. He's not out there to demand the ball. He's out there to make the most of it when it finally swings his way. He doesn't need 20 possessions to warm up. He doesn't force himself into the game. He reads it, flows with it, and then strikes. Low usage doesn't mean low value. It means he's not wasteful. And when you've already got stars doing the heavy lifting, a guy like Shamet becomes exactly what you want in a complementary scorer. Low touch, high value, and always ready. So yeah, his usage rate might only be 15.2%. He might only be involved in a handful of plays per game, but with what he's doing in those plays, the scoring, the efficiency, the control, Landry Shamet is turning low usage into a high value role, and he's doing it without ever stepping out of the team's rhythm. Overall though, the Knicks just unlocked a monster. What they thought was a quiet role player turned out to be a fully formed weapon hiding in plain sight. Landry Shamet has gone from the guy in the corner waiting for a kick out to a player who can shift the tempo of a game without ever needing the spotlight. What's happening now isn't just a hot streak, it's a revelation. It's a new gear, and the Knicks might have stumbled onto one of the most efficient two-way players in their rotation. Shamet isn't exploding through defenses with flair or dominating possessions with volume. He's doing something far more dangerous. He's becoming undeniable, and he's doing it by being ruthlessly efficient, hyper-aware, and perfectly timed. It's one thing to score big in a random breakout game, but it's another to back it up with continued production that fits into every rotation. He doesn't bend the offense to fit him. He adapts to it and then delivers. He plays next to stars without fading. He gets fewer touches and makes more of them. He defends without fouling, rotates without freelancing, and shoots without hesitation. It's all clean, it's all purposeful, and it's all happening at a level that's forcing the team to pay attention. This isn't an experiment anymore. It's real. Shamet is turning limited minutes into maximum results. The scoring is precise. The defense is stable. The decision-making is sharp. He's not just filling a spot, he's elevating the lineup. And every time he's on the court, the numbers swing in the Knicks' favor. They've added a player who doesn't need volume, doesn't need headlines, and doesn't need coaching staff to micromanage his impact. He just shows up and produces. And maybe that's the most terrifying part, that a player this efficient, this intelligent, this prepared, was sitting this quietly on the roster. But the moment came. The opportunity cracked open, and Shamet didn't walk through it. He kicked the door off the hinges. The Knicks aren't unlocking potential. They're unleashing a player who's already figured it out. No one's asking Shamet to become the focal point. They don't need to. He's become the pressure valve, the floor spacer, the possession finisher, the defensive stabilizer. He's all the things that make a good team dangerous and a dangerous team scary. What's next isn't about whether this is sustainable. It's about how far the Knicks can go now that they've discovered this extra weapon. And if Shamet keeps doing what he's doing, scoring with efficiency, defending with control, and adapting to whatever the game throws at him, then what they've unlocked isn't just a hot hand. It's a monster. And it's here to stay. If you guys enjoyed this, I'll be posting every day. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.